Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 226 of the Kiss Army Nation podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Pasquale Veri.
And I am Claudio Spera. Welcome to the show, everyone.
As all Kiss fans know, the Dress to Kill box set has finally dropped. But this isn't just another reissue. It's a full-blown time machine that drops us right into the smoky clubs and the New York hustle that fueled Kiss before Alive changed everything. So tonight, we're going to unbox the Dress to Kill era.
So for this special unboxing, we are joined once again by our dear friends Patrick de Montigny and Michael Bournasian. So welcome back to the show, guys.
Hello.
Hi, always a pleasure.
So I guess this is going to be lots of fun as usual, but as Paz was saying, this issue, this release, it's quite special and highly expected from fans. So before we travel back to early 1975, we have a question here. So did anyone here get the box set? And whether you got it or not, in your opinion, how does this set differ from earlier deluxe reissues, such as Destroyer and Creatures? Patrick, start with you.
Okay, I have to confess I still don't have a box set yet, but it's in my plans to get it before the holidays. Now, I've heard some snippets and everything. You know what? I think the Dress to Kill period was the make it or break it for Kiss, because we all know how things were going at the time. They were doing okay, but they weren't selling any records. So here's a band that was really hungry to make sure that they did make it. So in a sense, that Dress to Kill era differs from the other two, because like this, by Destroyer, Alive was platinum, so they had their taste of success. And for Creatures, well, here was a band that was on top and went to the bottom. It was a hard time for them. So Creatures is it's similar in a way. They were hungry to regain their title.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some similarities there, but I think back in 74, 75, during the Dress to Kill era, they were more like, there's this upcoming band, they're really great. So there's that sort of like underground feeling to it. And you listen to the live excerpts that I've heard. I mean, here's a band that is hungry and they're firing on all cylinders. Makes you wish things stayed that way for a longer time. But here Dress to Kill is just before Kiss broke through. That's the Kiss that we got with that.
Mm-hmm. Michael?
So I'm going to answer this question a little differently than what Patrick just said. So how does this set differ from the earlier deluxe issues, Destroyer and Creatures of the Night? So I have 2 points that are the same and 2 points that are different. So in terms of what is the same with this box set and the other two, they're both the same kind of boxes, same size it seems, and plenty of memorabilia in there that Kiss has decided to jam in there. I don't have the box set. I do have all the music. So I did that, but I did do some homework and I looked at some unboxing videos. Mm-hmm. So I know what's in the box set. And the two things that jumped out at me were, the book, hardcover book with pictures and notes and essays. And I mean, that is necessary as far as I'm concerned. And the tie that is in the box set. There's a replica of the tie that Gene Simmons wears on the cover of Dress to Kill, which I thought is, as someone who has to wear a tie sometimes at work, that's
cool.
that was like, hey, there's something I want. Another thing that's the same. Well, you do get your mix of outtakes and alternative takes and demos and mixes and instrumentals. So that's the same with comparing to Destroyer and Creatures. What's different with this box set? Finally, we're getting 2 full professionally recorded concerts. And that for me is the biggest selling point. Not just professionally recorded, but professionally recorded and mixed. By Eddie Kramer. It's like, wow, here's, Holy Grail. Thank you for showing up finally, With Destroyer, we got the Paris 76 show, a great show, but ultimately an audience recording from that tour, a very good recording, but still an audience recording. Creatures gave us soundboard quality recordings from that tour, from various shows. But here we have shows that the band actually recorded themselves using mobile equipment or mobile trucks, and with Eddie Kramer behind the board recording them. And I'll talk more about this, or we'll talk more about this when we get to talk about the show specifically. But yeah, that's definitely different from the previous two box sets. Another thing that is currently different is that there doesn't seem to be a 2 CD version of this set. With Destroyer and Creatures, you got 2 CD sets, where one CD was the album and the other CD was, kind of a, a best of, the outtakes and the alternative mixes and the live material. With this one, it seems like you get the box set and that's it, or you get a picture disc and memorabilia and a hoodie or a t-shirt or something, but there doesn't seem to be a 2 CD set. So yeah, so some things that are the same that I see, and some things definitely that are different.
Nice. Ask.
So my answer is really, the inspiration for this particular episode, because if you look at the 3 box sets, they're all equally awesome.
Yeah.
They all have amazing merch in all of them. And every time I got the box set, I have a table in the living room, and I just laid everything out flat so I could see everything in one shot. I listen to the music and I go through the merch. I look at it. I go through it. What I have to do this weekend is go through the book as I'm listening to the music. That's the final thing to do. So in terms of the merch, it's all cool. All 3 box sets are cool. The music, it's all amazing for all the 3 box sets. The remastering of the original album, the live performances, the outtakes. It's incredible for all 3 of them. So in a sense, the 3 reissues are similar. They're all awesome. But the difference, it's the era. It's the Dress to Kill era.
Yeah.
That is so special. I'm looking at the box set laid out on my table. It's like, this was a definitive point in their career. Like Pat was saying, it was make or break them. That's it. I mean, Destroyer, it was basically, an album that looked at taking their music to a different level. Creatures they weren't doing so great, and taking the music now to a better level. So that's what was cool about those 2 box sets and those 2 records. But this was the gap between Dress to Kill and Alive. To me, it felt like I'm looking at a time capsule here. I'm looking at history happening right in front of me through the merch, through the music, through this book. And for some reason, I looked at all 3 box sets on the table. This one just hit me the hardest in terms of the historic effect
Value,
of that box
right.
set on me. And to me, that's what the big difference is, the era.
Yeah. Well, you said it all. You guys have said it all to me. Yeah. So format-wise, it's pretty much the same. I'm really happy. I don't have it yet, but I did listen to all the music many times. I have to say that the 2 shows are basically on constant rotation on my phone, and I'm listening. I every time I listen to this, I find something different, which is the thing that we were missing. Finding those details, and the quality of the sound is so great. Merch wise, a lot of stuff, lots of stuff. I have the sense, I don't know why I didn't compare because I don't have it yet, but I got the sense that maybe there's a little bit more on this one, more goodies, more items. Very unique, very creative in terms of products itself. And as Michael was saying, the rare demos and the outtakes and all of that, it's great. But I would like to wrap up my conclusion here, my opinion, with exactly what Pask said. To me, Dress to Kill, it's one of my favorite albums, and you can still sense this kind of innocence that they had. The sound was still raw, but still rock and roll. So much fun before they got to another level, because we all know what happened after Alive. They got into superstars and blah blah blah. But this sense of urgency of these guys having to, in between the tour, they had to fly back to New York to Electric Lady Studios. They didn't have any songs. They actually had to put their hands into stuff from Wicked Lester, to kind of fill up the gaps. That tells you so much about, the vision that these guys had. They wanted really to make it happen. They wanted to have records, at the stores every 6 months. That was the plan for Neil Bogart. So, and they did exactly what needed to be done. So again, I'm happy that we're having this episode to discuss, amongst friends, because we're talking about the era. And to me, 75, that's so special, for Kiss, even before Alive, but, Dress to Kill, the segue to the big jump, in the band's story.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of jumping, let's get jumping into 1975. Let's travel back to 1975. So at this point, Kiss was fighting for mainstream success. In your opinion, did Dress to Kill define their identity before the success of Alive? Michael.
Okay, I had to write this down so that I get it correctly. So your question is, did Dress to Kill help define their identity before the success? My answer to this is, I don't think it helped define their identity before Alive. It did help to develop and broaden their identity. Develop and broaden. Let's remember, Kiss already had 2 studio albums in the bank, which already started the ball rolling in terms of defining their identity, both musically and also aesthetically. So you kind of know what you're getting there. From a musical perspective, Dress to Kill is certainly, of the first 3 albums, for me, Dress to Kill is certainly the most rock and roll sounding album, most straightforward rock and roll sounding album. The song structures are very straightforward. The lyrical content is very straightforward. You get a bit more variety on the first 2 albums, whereas with Dress to Kill, maybe it was because of the fact they were pressed for time, and so they stuck with this narrow road, for good or bad. But good or bad, find me someone who doesn't like Dress to Kill. I haven't met anyone. I haven't met anyone yet. I think it's a universally loved album in Kiss world. I mean, the only song that kind of differs of the 10 songs, the only song that kind of strays from the path is She. Even then you can say, well, that's a Wicked Lester song, and it was made with a Wicked Lester mindset, shall we say. But even a song like Love Her All I Can, which is also from the Wicked Lester days, you hear Dress to Kill type of music in Love Her All I Can. So it kind of blends in with the other 8 songs. So you have these 9 songs which sound one way, and then you have She, which sounds different. It doesn't stand out, or how do I say this? It fits, but it's definitely the song that kind of takes a different feel. But for the most part, this is an album where they kind of, tried to go down a straight ahead rock and roll path. And, we know where they went afterwards with Destroyer, and they kind of tried to come back to the rock and roll feel with Rock and Roll Over even Love Gun after that. So yeah, that's basically it. So like I said, it didn't define them, but it helped to broaden and develop their identity, because at first you had 2 albums, now you have 3 albums to help define your identity, and this album is a bit more of a rock and roll sounding album. You hear the Stones in there, you hear other kinds of straightforward kind of Chuck Berry kind of influences in there. So yeah, for me that's my answer.
Okay, Patrick, your thoughts?
Did it help define Kiss? I believe that by Hotter Than Hell, they already knew who they were, and I think the process was completed with Dress to Kill. I think there was no question that they wanted to be a hard rock band, like very raw, and I think that by Dress to Kill, that's where they were. Although I remember reading history and saying that, okay, now we need a hit song. So that mentality started to come with Dress to Kill because it's like, since it's our make it or break it album, we need that song that'll bring us to the next level. So in a sense, it defined Kiss that also that they needed something to put them on the map. So, but I think it was pretty clear because you can tell with the costumes and everything, we had everything was set. You had the Catman, the Star Child, the Demon, and the Spaceman. Where before, as I said in another episode, it was more like they didn't really know what to wear, and the sound was the same. They wanted to be, but they needed to sort of develop the character to make it stronger. And by Dress to Kill, it was already defined. Now, it it's funny because Dress to Kill took them to the next era, which was Super Kiss. People think of Super Kiss in '79,
Yeah.
but for myself, I always think of '76, starting with the Spirit of '76. That's Super Kiss.
Mhm.
So no, I think they were already set by then.
Okay. Claudia, what do you think?
I'll give it a different spin to the question. I agree with Michael. So I don't think that it defined their identity, but I think it did define the business side of Kiss, because Neil Bogart, I don't think that he was too happy with the two first releases, even though, Dress to Kill didn't sell millions of albums. The fact that he was the producer, it gave the band, the freedom to basically make a rock and roll album. He was more of a cheerleader than a producer. So in that case, if you read, history, all four members agree that this is the album where they felt more freedom in terms of writing. Of course, there was pressure, but the fun part of Kiss and the entertainment, I think it's really, really, you can feel it in this album. And why I'm saying about the business, because, we all know Neil Bogart, he was a radio guy. He was a one-hit, kind of a wonder guy. And with Rock and Roll All Night, he nailed it. Even though, that version didn't have a lot of airplay, we don't have to forget that, this is the segue to Alive, and the version on Alive basically made them explode. So to me, the business model for Kiss was defined starting with Dress to Kill.
I guess I read the question wrong or differently. By identity, do we mean their characters or do we mean their musical identity? Because if it's about their characters, I don't think that identity was fully developed at that point yet. I don't think they were even working towards that. They were starting to work towards the merch and like you were saying, Claudio, the business side of it. But in terms of their character developments of the Space Ace, the Demon, and all that, not at that point.
No.
But I think by listening to the live albums on the Dress to Kill box set, I think their musical identity was pretty much established. It's just that the mainstream didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
But the fans did. And when Alive came out, that's when it exploded, because now the mainstream is going, hey, wait a minute, who are these guys? This is amazing. But that didn't happen overnight. That developed through a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And that identity was established before Alive came out, during the Dress to Kill era. So yes, I think the musical identity, definitely. What was also cool about it is that, with the first two albums, you really got the core of who the band was musically. But now, because they wanted more of a mainstream audience, they went for more of a poppy, more polished songwriting and songs like Rock and Roll All Night and Come On and Love Me. They wanted more hooks, and I think that's also what helped them explode once Alive came out, because it just wasn't these hard rock songs. It was songs that you could sing to, dance to, hum to. It had the earworm. It's in your head once you hear it. And that's what made those songs so special and that era so special. So their identity was definitely established musically, but not in terms of their characters at that time.
Good answer. So let's get deeper into the box set content. So as we said at the beginning, the box set includes, rare demos, live recordings, and alternate takes. So we'll talk about the live recordings a little bit later, but let's attack, the demos and alternate takes first. So Pask, which of these demos or alternate takes surprised you the most?
Oh my God, the very first song, Mistake. You hear that country twang. It's like, what on earth is this? What on earth were they thinking? This could never have made it on a Dress to Kill album, but listen to the entire song. It's like, it's a really good song. It's really catchy. If you forget the twang at the beginning, it's a really catchy song. If you listen to the lyrics, it's Kiss. Yeah. It's Kiss. If they were to rework that to a Kiss song, I think it would make a great addition to the album. It's comparable, I guess, to Paul Stanley's God of Thunder. That would never have made it on Destroyer. But with the Gene twist, absolutely. Right. And same thing with Mistake. So that one was really cool. Another thing that struck me was Rock and Roll All Night. They were trying to get an anthem. And it was so obvious how hard they were working to get a Kiss anthem with all the different versions of that song. And you have the clapping version where people are just clapping during the song. The party, people are shouting it. It's like that is so cool. I'm not sure if that would have worked on the studio album. As a matter of fact, Rock and Roll All Night was not popular when it was released on the studio version. It got popular at the Alive. Yeah. But in a sense, when they were recording that for Dress to Kill, I think they realized that. Yeah. We need more than just a studio version of this. We want it to be live. We wanted people to listen to it in a party mode. So the thinking behind it was interesting. It's like, I see the direction they were going with that. And I also loved the all the instrumentals on the to me that was a highlight, were the instrumental versions of a lot of the songs. But what it really goes to show with these demos is that you really hear the bare bones of these songs, listen to this now. I understand, especially after Dress to Kill, why fans were upset with Destroyer, because Destroyer, it was an amazing album of great songs, great lyrics, but all the little bells and whistles in there. To fans, it's like, okay, what on earth is this? Because on this album, it really gets to show the bare bones of the album. It's about the riffs. It's about the hooks. Yeah. And that's what made the songwriting and the songs in this album so special.
So let me ask you something, Pask. There's in this, in the box set, whether if it's LPs or CDs, there's like 23 in total. Like outtakes and demos and different versions and blah blah. Do you find yourself like, oh, this is like the last one, so I'll skip it and I'll go to a next? Or you pay specific attention to every detail on every song?
Every song is there for a reason, because there's something different about that song, and I want to know what that difference is. And what I like doing, which I haven't done yet, is I want to play the original and then play the demo, right? And see the differences between the two, and again seeing the thinking behind the process of producing that song, like a lot of what Gene does, right? So when we did the Vault, it was 2 hours of Gene talking about how he writes, and it's like it really brought perspective into his thinking behind the songs that he wrote. And listening to these demos, it was the same kind of thing. When you listen to them, it's like you start to understand the thinking behind these songs and how it developed from here to there. Even these little details is what makes it really interesting.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Michael, your turn.
All right, what stood out for me? So I've listened to this CD or this portion of the box set 3 times now. I agree with Pask. Mistake. I mean, I knew the song before, but I have a kind of a cruder version of it. But this one, pristine sounding, excellent. I mean, you hear Eagles influence in there. Country Stones influence in there. I mean, Paul was trying. It's almost like Paul's first attempt at writing a different kind of song. Like he wrote "Hard Luck Woman" to try and write a Rod Stewart song. I Was Made for Loving You was written to try and write a disco song. Maybe this was his first attempt to try and write, a country song. I don't know, but it is very good. It could be something he could, if he decides to pursue a solo career, this would be a great song for him to include in his set.
Sure.
Yeah.
Burning Up with Fever, we know this song because it appears on Gene's solo album, but here's the original version, and it sounds great. I mean, the groove is similar to the kind of groove you get with She. It's very enjoyable. Many versions of Rock and Roll All Night. Song number 6, so the studio demo with alternate vocal take, the one that has the cowbell going throughout the song,
Yeah,
and the hand
yeah.
claps, that was enjoyable. There's 4 songs that are acoustic mixes.
Yeah.
Like predominantly it's an acoustic guitar driving the song. I thought that was really interesting. Song 15 is the super fast outtake of Rock and Roll All Night. This was good. I enjoyed the fact also that it's a different lead vocal from Gene. Like you hear that it's not the studio, the one we're all familiar with. It's a completely different vocal from Gene. You also have the hand claps in there and everything. The one thing I thought about when I was listening to this song was, I bet 20 years from now, so like the reunion tour, this is a song that Peter will complain about because it's too fast and it
Of the
hurts his
tempo.
arms. Yeah, so that was for some
That's a
reason
good point.
for some reason that pops into my head every time. Speaking of Peter, the instrumental outtake of Getaway
Yeah.
is good. I like all the instrumental outtakes as well. It's nice, it's also good for karaoke. But this version has the ending of Rock and Roll All Night there. The way they end Rock and Roll All
Yeah.
Night when they
Yeah.
play it live. It's like they do it at the end of this instrumental outtake, and it's kind of cool. And the last one I'm going to mention is the instrumental outtake of She. When I heard this, I realized something, at least for me personally. Of the 10 songs on Dress to Kill, the song She is the only song that could actually be an instrumental. If you listen to all the other songs, they need lyrics. The music is good, but it's very straightforward. It's very repetitive to a certain degree. I mean, I don't mean that as a negative, but it's very straightforward. As I was saying before, it is the most straightforward and rock and roll sounding of the 3 albums.
Yeah.
But She, which is a Wicked Lester song originally, it has all these different sections and mood swings, and there's the drum middle section. It's like, I'm listening to it and I'm like, wow, this song could just be an instrumental. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my thought.
Mm.
And I mean, I could give many other examples, but those are the ones that stuck out for me. Overall, this is really good. I mean, I have other box sets where there's like demos and outtakes and this and that, and sometimes I struggle to hear the difference. It's like, okay, this is a different mix. I don't hear it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm not an engineer or a producer and I haven't spent a second of my life in a recording studio. But sometimes it is difficult to know what's going on differently. But with this one, like Pask was saying, you do hear something.
You can tell.
You
Yeah,
hear
you can
something
tell.
that's a little different going on, even if it's one small little detail. Oh, okay, listen to
Yeah.
that. Rock and Roll All Night, there's like 5 different versions of it, but you get the versions with, like I said, with the cowbell going throughout or the hand clapping. It's like, oh, okay, that's
cool.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the version that has the party vibe going on. They got 10 people in the studio. Hey, pretend there's a party going on while we're recording this song. No, this is a good set of songs. Definitely. A plus for this material.
Nice. I really loved your kind of getting into the details, and as you were talking, what you said about She, that's interesting because, I was thinking about that, and it is true that, they made it fit to the album, but maybe she could have been more appropriate for the first album, or maybe Harder Than Hell than Dress to Kill.
It could have
But
been.
still,
Yeah.
that's interesting. A song without the lyrics, that's the only one. That's a really good point. I loved it. Yeah.
I mean, it's the only song from Dress to Kill. I mean,
It
it's
could
the
have.
oldest song that they had in their repertoire, because
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
been performing it since day one, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
You know, so it's a song they carried over for pretty much 2 years,
Yeah.
about almost 2 years performing it. And then it's like, oh, okay, now let's put it on an album. And maybe it's because they didn't have enough time to write more songs. So it's like, okay, well, why don't we just do a studio version of She? You know? So yeah, it is this outlier kind of song on the album, because it has a different groove and tempo and different musical parts to it, kind of thing. But it fits. It works.
Yeah, it does.
You know?
It does. It does.
You know?
It does. Really good. Patrick, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, to be honest with you, since I don't have the box set, I haven't listened to the all the different versions of this. I've heard, I think, another version of Rock Bottom, because Rock Bottom is the first Kiss song I ever heard, and that I have this special feeling for it. It's funny, being the fan that I am, I'm not a big fan of listening to the same song about 15 versions. At some point, to me, it gets at some point it gets like, this is not what it's about for me. So it's fascinating. Like, I'm going to pay attention to what you have been saying about the version with the cowbell and everything, just for the heck of it. But that's the kind of thing I will listen to once, and then I much prefer the live versions. What I do like is like the unreleased songs, like Burning Up with Fever. It was, you don't know the song, but I was curious to see it from an early Kiss version of it. And it's pretty good. And Mistake, now, just like everybody else, I went, what's this? And I realized that it's a good song, yes, but again, I don't think it's for Kiss. Had they decided to go ahead and put it on the album, a lot of people would have went, okay, we have this raw band, and now it sounds like Captain and Tennille. Now, nothing against Captain and Tennille, that's not the point, but it's like, this is you've grown, you've got us accustomed to listening to this raw music, and then you have this song. It's like, okay, but hey, every band does that. They try something that we go, okay, I don't think this is gonna fit with the rest of the album. It could have been a good B-side, or if you release a single, oh, here's this song that we didn't use for the album, we're gonna, just for the heck of it. So but yeah, good song. But I prefer to listen to that kind of stuff than countless versions of the same song over and over. And but that's what those box sets are for, to get that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for people like us. So but I'm more interested in the unreleased material.
Okay. Well, just briefly, of course, Mistake and Burning Up with Fever, they stood out, at the very beginning. But what I loved about, the whole 23 songs there, I never thought that after listening to Rock and Roll All Night so many times in our lives, I was going to pay attention to Rock and Roll All Night. I don't know how many versions we have in there, but I was able to find something different and fun. But what I love the most, and I did an experiment with the box set when I was listening to it. I was also reading Behind the Mask. I love that book, and you can tell, by the explanation that each one of the members gave on the recording that they were doing for each one of the songs. You can tell by listening to this specific section of the box set where they were coming from. The roots. You listen to some BTO in there. You listen to some British rock, as Michael was saying, a little bit of Eagles here, a little bit of Rolling Stones there. And sometimes it's really hard to identify all of that in a released commercial album. If you don't have this material, you will never know basically what these guys were trying to experiment before getting to the final versions. And this is what I love. You can also tell how Ace's solos were fantastic on this section. Man, you listen to those songs and you can tell that the guy was experimenting all kinds of things. Same thing with Paul and his voice. Sometimes he sounded a little bit shy, but at some others, he went all the way up. And this is the magic for me of these box sets. Of course, we're going to talk about the live recordings, which in this box set they kick it out of the park. It's a home run. But I really enjoyed these 23 takes that we have in this section of the box set. Really, really nice.
Okay, Claudio, so you can answer the next question. Speaking of the live recordings,
Yes.
Cobo Hall and Davenport. So what stands out on these performances compared to the more polished sound of a live?
To me, this is pure Kiss. This is the magic. This is where the magic is. Listening to some kind of mistakes or something that is not perfect. The solos from Ace. Again, they were jamming sometimes during the songs. And I can figure, for example, at the beginning of 100,000 Years, when you listen to the crowd, and I could see, Gene spitting blood, and doing his faces and all of that. Of course, Alive was really immersive. It made you feel like you were there. That's my favorite album. But to me, listening to these gems in raw format, and the sound is so good, as Michael was saying, thanks God that they were remixed, by Eddie Kramer again, taking the analog tapes, that they had, that we're fortunate that they found them. To me, this is the cherry on the pie for this box set. Again, what stands out to me, that's so genuine, so real. This is to me the real Kiss.
So let me ask you, if the performance from Cobo or Davenport, the way it was remastered on this box set,
Yes.
if that was released, either of those shows were released as the Alive album,
Yeah.
would it have made it?
I don't think so.
No, eh?
No. Then we are diehards, and we love this kind of stuff that has been released now. But to me, nothing can compare to Alive.
Okay.
The Alive, the way it is. Well, maybe because I was consuming Alive for almost 50 years or 40 years. But to me, still, it's a souvenir. Alive, it's a souvenir of a Kiss show, and maybe Paul is right. Maybe you don't want to listen to those mistakes, for
Right.
40 years,
Right. Good point. All right, Patrick, your thoughts.
Again, I have only heard bits and pieces, but what I've heard so far is really great, raw Kiss. And I kind of agree with Claudia in the sense that they couldn't have used that to make an official live album. That the mission was to break the band through. They needed to repolish, and they do it for every artist, every band's retouches a so-called live album. It's not just Kiss. Kiss fans got disappointed when they heard that Alive and Alive 2 were not that live, but people have to bear in mind that it's with every artist. They retouch things, and anyway, but the point being is that for us people to listen to that is a great gift, because this is the Kiss we fell in love with, a Kiss that is energetic, hungry, and you can't go wrong with that, especially the era, because again, I always say that, I always come back to that, but is that they were underground still.
Yeah.
There's that dangerous unknown element to it.
Yeah.
And plus the band was really tight, was really good. I mean, all four of them were into it. As the years went by, different things happened, but if you listen to that, they go, whoa, there's no question why they chose Ace and Peter, as Gene and Paul chose Ace and Peter to complete the band, because they knew there was something there.
Yeah.
And you hear it. And also the odd thing is that I believe it's the Davenport show where they start with Rock Bottom,
Yeah.
Here's a band that tries things, doesn't work out, doesn't get the reaction, but it's fun to hear them try things again until they settle. Okay, we start the show with Deuce. But I think it was a nice side note that they chose a show that they started with a different song that we're not used to. Hey, hats off to them for trying.
I think it was on Podcast Rock City. They said, and it was a good point. They know they were recording these shows for a live album. Why is it at that point they're trying something different now?
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
All right, Michael, what are your thoughts?
All right. So let's start with the Detroit show. So it's Patrick, just to correct you, it is the Detroit show that starts.
Yeah,
Oh,
the rock
sorry.
bottom.
with
Yeah.
Rock Bottom. No problem. We all make mistakes.
Just like the song.
Good one. I didn't see that one coming.
This is the pure podcast, man. This is not polished.
There we go. Look, I have a number of shows from 75 from this Dress to Kill period in my collection. So after listening to this Detroit show, this is hands down the unique show from that era. It's a 16-song set list. It is easily the longest show they've performed in that era. There's and not only a 16-song set list, but a unique set list. It's almost like they wrote the songs on pieces of paper, they threw them into a hat, and they pulled them out one by one. Okay, this is the first song of the show. This is the second song. This is the third song. It definitely seems that way. But it also definitely seems like they know they're recording this for a live album, so let's try and do a whole bunch of stuff, which is why you get stuff like Rock Bottom, why you get songs like Two Timer, why you get a song like Let Me Know. These are not normal songs that appear in the set list. I mean, the next show that I personally have in my collection after this one is Long Beach, May 31st, and it's back to the regular set list we all know. So I think they were definitely trying to do something unique with this show. Another thing I like about the show is you hear firecrackers going off during the show. This is something you don't get anymore. But that depending on who you ask or listen to, it's either the boon or the bane of the artist. Led Zeppelin didn't like firecrackers at their shows. Bruce Springsteen also didn't like them after he got hurt at one show in 1978. But it's kind of cool to hear, it's like, and they go off randomly, and, it's the kind of thing you don't hear on a live. My biggest complaint with the live has always been the sound of the crowd. It just sounds like a big continuous drone. And, we've all been to enough shows to know that that's not really how it is. There's an ebb and flow to, the same way there's an ebb and flow to the music, there's an ebb and flow to how loud the crowd is, how soft the crowd is, et cetera, et cetera. But with these recordings, you get that. You're not constantly hearing the crowd during the show, and, you're hearing the actual live crowd that's there. Davenport, Iowa, the first show, 13-song set list, back to a normal set list structure, I suppose, but still, hard to complain with those songs. The one downside with this show is that Paul doesn't sound very good. He sounds a little under the weather. His voice is not as strong. You can tell he's trying to preserve his voice because there's another show coming after this one on the same day. So it's like he's trying to keep his voice as healthy as possible. And then 3 days, I think, after this show is the Wildwood show, which they also recorded. So I think he did the best he could under the circumstances. One thing I noticed very interesting during this show, at the end of Hotter Than Hell, there's the solo that Ace does. At one point, Paul's guitar drops out. You don't hear him anymore. So it's Ace, Peter, and Gene playing. Yeah. And they're playing, who knows what happened, malfunction or something or whatever. And they get to the end of the song and they're kind of, at the end of it, about to go into Firehouse. It's almost like they're waiting for Paul to come back on stage. And at some point, I think they decide, okay, let's just go into Firehouse. And you hear Ace play the intro to Firehouse. I mean, when has that ever happened? Yeah. I was sitting there like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm hearing this, so that was really cool. Overall, Eddie Kramer's mix is excellent. Yeah. I mean, this man is a blessing. I mean, and he's, I don't know how old he is. He's easily in his 70s or his 80s, but you know, for him to be still doing work like this,
Yeah, he's still
I
got it.
mean, where's the metal? The mix is great. Everything is like kind of mostly in the middle, but you have Ace's guitar on the left, you have Paul's guitar on the right, and that's how you can tell like who is who kind of thing. But everyone is equal in there, which is great. And I think I touched on this before, but you hear the mistakes. Or somebody
Yeah.
touched on it before. You hear the mistakes. These are human beings performing this music. They're jumping around the stage. They're running around the stage. At times it's not going to sound perfect. At times it is going to sound like, whoops, that was wrong, or whoops, I hit the wrong note there, or whoops, I sang the wrong vocal there. That's going to happen, so it gives it more of a realistic feel.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is the actual concert I went to, not what I've been given on Alive and listening to on Alive for the past 50 years. I love Alive. I think it's great, but at a certain point, it's like, this is closer to the real. This is closer to, the real deal. I do find it a bit strange, though. Another thing with the Davenport show, there are 2 times where Paul says Moline.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, that's the sister city, not but the venue is in Davenport, Iowa, and then at the end he says Davenport once. So I think maybe someone corrected him at some point during off stage or something. You're in Davenport, buddy. But yeah, I mean, it's like the Quad Cities, and Moline is like across the river kind of thing. But anyways, a small thing. But yeah, I mean, in terms of performance, I would probably put the Detroit show a little bit higher than the Davenport show, if only because of the unique set list, and also because, like I said, at the Davenport show, Paul does sound like his voice is maybe a little under the weather kind of thing, but still a solid performance. I mean, not phoning it in, that's for sure.
Yeah. When I listened to these 2 shows, I asked myself the question, why were fans so upset that Alive was fixed, was done in the studio? Was it because fans felt like, well, maybe what we heard wasn't the actual Kiss? They're basically promoting it as, this is Kiss in concert, but here they're fixing it up. So maybe this is not Kiss in concert. Maybe is that why they were getting upset? So listening to Cobo and Davenport, it's like it reaffirms that this was absolutely Kiss at the time.
Yeah.
So they fixed up Alive in the studio. They had to, we had to hear the bombs and the audience, and it had to sound larger than life for the mainstream to pick it up, like you were saying, Claudio. But Cobo and Davenport really show that, this was the band at the time. That was not faked on the Alive album. This is who Kiss was in 75. Yeah. And from my understanding, there were 5 shows recorded for the Alive album. Cobo and Davenport were 2 of them, but from my understanding, not much was used from these 2 shows on the Alive album. So what we're going to get on the Alive box set, those 3 shows, a lot of that will be used on the Alive album. So I'm looking forward to listening to that. But, am I looking forward to that? Yes, I am. But we got such an amazing taste of the Alive 75 experience with these two shows that excitement, I can't imagine it getting even bigger and better with the next box set. I'm curious to see.
I have a question for you, Pask. So you have the vinyls, right?
No, the CDs.
The CDs, okay. Because when paying attention to what Michael was saying, in my case, I listened to the streaming, versions that you can find on Spotify and stuff. And we all know that this is compressed, with different technology. I can only imagine, how the CDs must sound like. So the sound of those 2 live albums, Pask, on CD, they must be huge, man. They must be like a 4D, eh?
I got to crank it down because it's loud, it's bombastic.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
But I want to comment on the vinyl versus CD. Everybody knows I'm a vinyl guy, right? But I don't have a problem buying this on CD because for me, this isn't about the vinyl experience. It's about the time capsule.
Okay.
You know, it's about the music, not that it's on vinyl. You know, the cool thing about vinyl is looking at the cover. You get
Yeah.
to look at all of this, all of the merch. So to me, you know, getting it on CD is just as special as getting it on vinyl. So that didn't hurt us much.
Good point.
But Claudio, you should listen to the Just to Kill album on the DVD version
Okay.
on the TV, and you crank that up. Oh my God, the house shakes.
Really?
Oh
Oh.
my God, I got both speakers on both sides of the TV. The house
Ooh.
shakes. It sounds incredible. It sounds clear.
Cool.
Amazing,
Well,
amazing.
that's how you need to experience this.
Yeah,
This is absolutely great. So, guys, we talked about this, that Casablanca was going through a tough time, and it was almost collapsing. The label was not making money, the band was not making money. So that's why, Dress to Kill was rushed. One of the reasons why Neil Bogart also was picked as a producer, and Bill Ocon, I remember he said that it was cheaper, right, than having an external producer. So how do you think that urgency affected the songwriting, the production choices, and even the marketing of the album? For instance, the cover, wearing the suits, and kind of strange marketing choice for a band like Kiss, who were, wearing their costumes live and during the shows. So, Patrick, I'll start with you. I'm interested to see what you think about this.
Well, yeah, as they said in history, they were pretty much under pressure to make things happen. So they had just released Hotter Than Hell, and they already had to go to the studio to, you know, release new material. And as Paul said, although we were pretty productive, there's a reality that you can come up with so much stuff in such a short period of time. That's why they had to go back and get Love Her All I Can and She. And that, as Paul said, he was never a fan of going back to old material. So that gives you an idea how bad things were because they didn't have the time or the luxury to say we'll take our time. It wasn't like that. They needed that album. And probably taking someone from the circle that was probably cheaper as well. Now, as far as getting the album cover, I just think you got to remember the 70s were the times where they had already started in the late 60s, but it expanded in the 70s to where you had to have this amazing album cover to catch the eye. And I think when you look at the album cover, you see four guys in makeup with big hair and suits. It's pretty odd. So it's like, oh, I gotta listen to this.
Yeah.
I think, was it because I think they wanted something simpler than the Hotter Than Hell cover because the Hotter Than Hell cover was pretty wild. You had these back pictures which were really kind of strange. And I think they wanted something really simple with Dress to Kill, and I think it did the job. And you look at the album cover and you go, wow, that's pretty strange. Let me listen to that. I think the point with the album cover was simply to catch the eye. And that was a good way to do it.
Michael?
I don't think the urgency affected the album. I don't think it negatively affected the album in any fashion. I mean, yes, it was made under rushed conditions, pressure conditions. I mean, the first four songs on the demos CD or in that package of the 23, those first four songs come from the recording session they did in California at the end of January, while they were in that part of the States touring. The most famous show from that portion is the Winterland Black and White show, and then everything else is from Electric Lady, February to about early March of 1975. And I think during that period they only did about 4 shows. I mean, for a band that's constantly on the road, that's very little. But negatively affected, I don't think so. The songwriting, I mean, I said it earlier. Find me someone who doesn't like Dress to Kill, or a Kiss fan that doesn't like Dress to Kill. It's like finding a red penny. Production choices. I think that choice at that time to try and save money and to have perhaps Neil Bogart have maybe a bit more oversight over what the final product is. I think that it was the right choice for that time. And in terms of the cover, I mean, like Patrick said, guys in makeup with big hair, but they're wearing 3-piece suits. It's like it's eye-catching. And you want to talk marketing? How many people have stood on the corner of 23rd Street and 8th Avenue and taken
Very
their
good
picture?
point.
There you go.
It's the same as I'm trying to remember the name of the street, St. Mark's Place in New York City, the building on the cover of Physical Graffiti by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
You know how many people have taken a picture of that building just because that's the cover of Physical Graffiti?
True.
Yeah.
Countless. So marketing in the short term, I thought, in the short term, like upon release, I think really good. And long term, it is the most unique Kiss cover, well, if you don't want to count Carnival of Souls, where they're dressed, where they're also dressed in regular clothes at this point in time, where they're in makeup and costumes, all of a sudden, here's this picture or this cover where it's like, oh, look at this. They're dressed to kill. They got dressed up to kill us with their music.
Yeah.
No, there's no negativity around the urgency. No, not in my opinion.
Good stuff. Pasc?
You know what? I'm going to argue that it actually helped the album a lot. And I'm going to argue that if there wasn't that urgency, I don't believe the album would have been as good. Just this week, I teach a leadership class, and I had a group of students who were organizing an activity that they had to run for the rest of the class. And these kids, like a bunch of clowns, not taking things seriously. I thought, okay, they're going to fall on their faces. And I told them, guys, I gave you a term mark. And for a leadership class, it's pretty low. This activity, you could prove me right or prove me wrong. And if you prove me wrong, your mark is going to go up. These kids, man, pulled through. Last minute, they were flexible. They were changing things on the spot. And it was the best activity in the entire class. And I was like a proud father watching this happen, It was incredible to watch. I was so proud of those students. And I think that's what happened with this album, that because it was rushed, there was no overthinking the songs.
Yeah.
So the songs became more raw, more spontaneous, more hook heavy, because they didn't have that many songs, because they didn't have time to write them. Every song on this album was good. There was no filler. It was short, concise, and to the point. Yeah, it was a short 29, 30 minute album, but it was a perfect 30 minutes. And, the fact that they were leaning on pre-existing ideas and riffs and partially written songs, I think was cool, because they ended up working on stuff that they started earlier on and now developing for the album, which is something that they continue to do throughout their career. Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of the cover, that's also interesting, because from my understanding, there wasn't a concept there, and there wasn't, in my opinion, Michael, from my understanding, there wasn't a marketing idea for the future. It's like, you know what, we got to do something, and we can't afford to, the full costume and this and that. Let's just put them in suits and makeup. It's simple, it's quick, it's easy. And again, I don't think they had this particular concept in mind, but like what Patrick mentioned, it's like you have these superheroes in makeup in suits. So it kind of showed that look at these superheroes and how they stand out. And look at these guys. They're in the middle of New York. They don't belong on this planet. Look at them. They don't belong here. They're larger than life characters. I don't think they had that in mind. Mm-hmm. But I think that was a result of this particular cover. I didn't think they had in mind that people are going to be lining up at the exact same spot taking pictures, but that's what happened. And because of all of that, this album cover became iconic.
Yeah.
But I don't think for a second it was planned. This album was so rushed. They got lucky with the album cover and with the songs. And that's what makes the album so special as well, because there was no thinking involved. Like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And look what came out of it.
Yeah.
Man, this band, we mentioned in previous episodes, they got lucky so many times. They dodged a bullet so many times.
Yeah.
And this was just another example of that.
Yeah. But, we talked about this, early on. This was like the perfect segue to Kiss Alive. Maybe if Kiss Alive never happened, we wouldn't be talking about Kiss. We wouldn't be talking about Dress to Kill. So that was perfect. The timing was perfect for them. And just to go back to the question, I'm with you, Pasc. Sometimes in life, when you are under pressure, you basically deliver, the goods in a way that you could never do if you are relaxed or if you have time. So this, avoiding this overthinking, I think it boiled down to getting the real Kiss on an album, rocky songs, fun, writing about their experiences. Some of the songs are autobiographical. So in the case of Come On and Love Me, Paul, he said it many, many times. They didn't know what to write about except for what they were living on the road. And that was perfect timing. And production choices, I think having Neil Bogart to oversight what they were doing and at the same time being like a cheerleader, as I said before, gave them freedom, just to do what they wanted and find a sweet spot of the music that they wanted to do at that time. And I have a story, Pass, for the cover. So the original concept was that Bob Gruen, he wanted to shoot the band in suits because he wanted to do a 2-pager comic. And this story is that Kiss was reading a newspaper and they found out that John Denver was going to play a concert, and they wanted to save the world, by avoiding, this concert to happen. So that's why, they went from regular guys in suit and tie to superheroes. So we see this famous, picture that they go through the telephone booth, and they came out, with their costumes. And all of a sudden, just to reduce cost, they, as Bob Gruen, he said, hey, we're on 8th Avenue and 23rd Street. Why don't you guys stand up there on the corner and let me take a couple of pictures? And apparently the band, they liked so much, that specific shot, that they picked it for the album cover. That's how it happened. That's again, you can say pure luck, but it was, what I do love about Dress to Kill, and I'm excuse me if I said it so many times, it's the simplicity of the band. The pureness, kind of innocence that they had. They were a rock and roll band, but they were not dangerous. To me, I have the sense that maybe Harder Than Hell sounds more dangerous than Dress to Kill. Dress to Kill sounds like a happy band, a rock and roll band, entertainment, clapping, rock and roll all night, and party every day. So, we of course we're talking about this 50 years later, but they were lucky. But they found themselves at the right time at the right place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Happy accidents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
So again, right? It begs the question, because we've often mentioned on this episode that this box set is like an historical document, right? It's a time capsule to that particular era. So from that point of view, what does this box set say about how Kiss built their legacy, and why do you think this era still resonates today, Michael?
I mean, for me, if you look at many periods of Kiss's career. I mean, it comes down to hard work. You put in the work and you're going to get a benefit from it. The constant touring, the constant recording, releasing of material. So, they built their legacy through hard work, putting on memorable shows, releasing great music. That's how it happens. And that's how you have the ability so many decades later to put out material like this and a box set like this. It still resonates today? Why does it still resonate? Because if you were the typical 15-year-old teenager back in 1975, and you got into the band at this period of time, 50 years later, you're most likely, hopefully, still alive in your 65, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, look at this. Now there's this box set. Look at all this stuff in here. It's like, and the term's been used a couple of times, time capsule. That's what it is. You open the box and you are time machined back to 1975 when you were 15 years old, first discovering this band, listening to the album on your turntable, holding the cover in your hands, looking at their faces, and hoping that your parents may take you to see them in concert. That's basically it. And the same thing is you can say the same thing with Alive. You can say the same thing with any of the box sets they've done up till now. They're like these little time capsules of that time. That's you could be pessimistic and say, well, bands just release this kind of stuff for the money and this and that and whatever, and they'd rather do this than release new material. Well, we all know that Kiss is not going to be recording or releasing new material anytime soon, or anymore. So this is what we have left. So, the more there is of these kinds of box sets, time capsules, the better. Everyone's going to have their favorite periods. I mean, it's obvious the four of us love this period. Let's be honest. Now, if one day they put out a box set of The Elder, how will that be taken? Will that be received in the same way? Maybe not. It depends. Some people love that album, some people don't. It's a divisive album. Dress to Kill, as I've said twice before, find me a Kiss fan who doesn't love this album. Yeah. It's a unifying thing. It's no different than it's hard to find people who don't love Rock and Roll Over or the debut album. Put out a box set of the debut album and material around that and see how well that goes. It'll go really well, in my opinion. So yeah, it's definitely going to continue resonating, because a large portion of the fan base is still around, and this is the best that Kiss can do right now, because they're not going to be they're not touring anymore, and they're not going to be releasing any new material. So you go back and you dig through the pit and you see what there is, and you put out beautiful documents like this.
I want to put Michael's theory to the test. Kiss Army, if you're one of those fans that doesn't like Dress to Kill, let us know in the comments section and tell us why.
You're no friend of mine.
Claudio, your thoughts, sir?
Oh, well, this is, I'm so happy that finally, after a very quiet 2024 in terms of releases, I'm so happy that finally we have this in our hands, and followed by the Kiss Alive box set 2. Deep inside, Paul and Gene, or whoever is behind these guys, they know that this is the real Kiss, okay? They know that this captures the essence of the roots, the kind of the evolution and the way to superstardom, because this is basically what Dress to Kill and Kiss Alive is. They show you with the rare demos and the takes, where they were coming from, and then boom, they give you 2 full shows where you can tell, wow, this is the real deal. This is how these guys, they built their legacy. And if I don't want to be so extreme, but I have to say that, of course, Super Kiss, we had it in 77, 78, as we discussed many, many times. But to me, if we hadn't had Dress to Kill and Kiss Alive, we couldn't have had Kiss, lasting 50 years. So this is the foundation, and again, resonates today. Look, we talked about this before, Pas. The last months before these releases, I kind of lost a little bit of interest. It went a little bit slow on me. Case I was listening to other stuff. When this box set came out and listened to the stuff, I'm gonna buy it, of course. It was like a breath of fresh air. I was thinking, this is why I love this guy so much. This is it. This is the real deal. So, and for a band doing this after 50 years, well, that means that the material was really good at that time, man. It was really, really good.
It reminds me of, and sorry, this won't take long. A year ago, Pasquale, when we did the Hot in the Shade Let Me Know episode, you said specifically, there's not much going on in the Kiss world right now.
Yep.
Look where we are a year later.
Yeah.
We have the Kiss in Vegas, we have the Kennedy Center honors, we have this box set. We're going to have a live in days. It's going to be coming out. It's not that far away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we had Aces passing, but we're also going to get a new Peter Criss album. Geez, it's like when it rains, it pours, but a good rain. In this case.
Yeah.
But go back a year and we had practically nothing. We were digging for things to be excited about. So it's a beautiful time.
True. Patrick, your thoughts?
I think. Why is these two box sets so special is that, again, here's a Kiss that is on the verge of becoming superstars.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those guys that likes to know what was going on at the time, what was the time, what was going through their minds, why they made certain choices. So these box sets give us, you have the feeling that you're there during the process. And I think that's why they're so amazing. And I'm really looking for, I too watched the unboxing on different YouTube channels. And even though I kind of know what's inside the album, I cannot wait to hold it in my hands because, as it's been mentioned, time capsule. The magic, that's the magic word for tonight.
Yeah.
Huge time capsule.
It's funny because these kind of box sets, what's so great about them is that it brings us back in time in that era. It's a history lesson to what it was like to be a Kiss fan and what Kiss was going through at that time. And that's the obvious answer for any of these box sets. But I don't know. For me, these box sets means a lot more than that. It's Claudio, you mentioned that you lost your interest at one point.
Yeah.
It happened to me as well. At one point, I was getting a little worried because I kind of lost that spark for the band. And this band has always been a part of my identity. And if they're not a part of my identity anymore, who am I?
No.
I got to tell you, that spark came back for the exact same reasons you mentioned, because it brought me back to that time. It reminded me why the band is so big, because of their drive and their energy in a time where this kind of thing was unheard of. It reminded me why this band is so special, why I got into them, and why I made so many friends around the world because of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's so special, and this box set reminded me of that. And every once in a while, you can't keep that level of passion at an all-time high all the time. It fluctuates. It goes up, it goes down, and at one point, it went down, and I was worried that it wouldn't go back up again. And damn it, did it go back up again? And it's going to be up, and it's going to be up there for a while. And Michael mentioned that in 2025 we've gotten so much stuff. I haven't heard fans complain that they're coming out with 2 box sets within a month. That's expensive.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But it's amazing. You don't have to buy them. Listen to it on Spotify. You still get to experience the era and the music of these box sets. Right. You don't have to spend $1,000 on them. So. I'm so thankful that this box set came out because, like I said earlier, that spark for the band is back, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, yeah. That was truly awesome, guys. So, any final comments, Michael, Pat?
As for myself, I'm gonna tell my loved ones, you know what to get me for Christmas. But no, it's a really exciting time. And well, aside, as Michael mentioned, the eight aces passing, but aside from that, I think we can still look forward to great things.
Yeah.
I look forward to the Alive box set. I look forward to hearing those additional shows, the second night in Davenport, Cleveland, which only seems to be partially recorded, but it's only like 5-6 songs, but okay, fine, give me that. And then the full Wildwood show. And the full Wildwood show, actually, I believe it was Eddie Kramer. Could have been somebody else, but I'm pretty sure it was Eddie Kramer who said that was the best of the shows. Like that show had the best output, shall we say. So yeah, I look forward to hearing that. And I really hope going forward, I mean, we're 2025 now. When was Alive 2 released? 2028. I would love to see a box set of, that captures the Alive 2 era and, perhaps the 3 full Los Angeles Forum shows. They'd be the same show because they're all the same set list. But you know what? I don't mind.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, these are the kind of anniversaries that these are, for me personally, this is the way the anniversaries should be done. I mean, for the Asylum 40 years, we got the San Antonio show, full show from the tour.
Yeah.
Give me more of that. I think I've said this a time or two before. And look like we're getting here, 1975, the anniversary of Dress to Kill, the anniversary of Alive. Guess what we're getting? We're getting super deluxe box sets of those 2 albums.
Yeah.
And you can complain about the price, but if you don't want to pay that much, as it's been said, listen on Spotify, buy it off iTunes or somewhere else, and that's it. So yeah, it's raining and it's nice.
Yeah. Isn't it incredible, though, after 50 years, we're talking about this small little album that was rushed
Yeah, exactly.
and wasn't very big at the time. And here we are talking about it 50 years later. What does that say about their legacy? And as diehard fans, and I've heard a lot of people say this, they're still learning something new about the band. You think you know everything? You don't, because there's always something new that comes out. And these box sets remind us that history is so rich in information that it'll take several lifetimes to know everything.
Yeah. But did you see that we talked about this many times after, Kiss wrapped up, their touring, the touring thing, they're not touring anymore. We were saying this is all about the music. And if you listen to us, the 4 of us, we were talking music all the time. And that's the beauty of these box sets. Of course, we like the goodies, we like all the merch that comes with it, because it allows you to go back in time, as you said, Pask. It's a time capsule. But at the end of the day, we're just, dying to listen to that strange thing alive, and the sound and the solo, and this is what it's all about. But it boils down to having this amazing music that these guys created, man. So really happy to share this time with you, Mike, Pat, and of course, Pask. We're back, Pask. We're back. Our love for the band is back, man.
Exactly. And it's thanks to a box set like this. And let's see what happens when the Alive box set gets released next week.
There you go. Yeah.
So, guys, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
To the Kiss Army, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please send them to talktome@kissarmynationpodcast.com. Until the next time, remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone.